Madam President, I am, first of all, this is the first time I've spoken on the floor when you were in the chair, and so welcome to the Senate and welcome to the presiding chair. I want to talk for a few minutes today about a baseball great, a Missouri great, Stan Musial, who passed away on Saturday at the age of 92. Stan Musial was born in November of 1920 in Donora, Pennsylvania. His title was Stan the Man. He was the youngest of 6 children when he wasn't called Stan the Man. He was just a guy who worked for who worked at a company when he was a young man, whose dad was a Polish immigrant, whose mother was of Czechoslovakian ancestry, whose dreams were probably not to become a professional baseball player, but who was a great athlete from the very start. In his remarks when he presented Stan Musial the Medal of Freedom in 2011, President Obama said that, quoting President Obama, Stan matched his hustle with humility. He retired with 17 records, even as he missed a season in his prime to serve his country in the Navy. He was the first player to make, and again, I'm still quoting President Obama, he was the first person to make, get this, $100,000, even playing baseball. Even more shocking, according to the president, Stan Musial, he asked for a pay cut when he didn't perform up to his own expectations. That ends the pay quote. I don't think that August Bush gave him the pay cut. That ends the quote. I don't think August Bush gave him the pay cut, but I have read the story where Stan Musial was holding out for a pay package somewhere in the mid-90s, and August Bush Jr., who not long before that had bought the Cardinals, called him into the office and said, "I'm never going to pay you 90 whatever $1,000 he was asking for. He said, I'm going to pay you $100,000, and you're going to be the first baseball player to make $100,000. Stan Musial played for the Cardinals from 1941 to 1963, the only major league team he played for. He entered the majors in 1941 as the 5th youngest player. He ended his career in 1963 as the 3rd oldest player. He had a record of 24 times being named to the Major League Baseball All-Star team. He won 7 National League batting titles, 3 National League Most Valuable Player awards, and he led the Cardinals to 3 World Series championships in the 1940s. Stan Musial, number 6, had batted at least 300 in every one of his 17 seasons. A 300 hitter for every one of his 17 seasons. His lifetime batting average was 331. He batted 330 in the year before he decided to retire. He had 3,630 career hits. He hit 1,815 hits in St. Louis at Sportsman's Park and Busch Stadium, and he hit another 1,815 on the road. He played as well at home as he did away from home. He missed the entire 1945 season while he was serving in the Navy. It was a fan at Ebbets Field, the Dodgers playing at Ebbets Field, who groaned as he came to the plate one time in a game where he was always particularly good against the Dodgers. He said, "Here comes the man," and from that point on, his nickname was Stan the Man. I had a chance to sit by Tommy Lasorda one day at lunch a few years ago after I'd read a biography of Stan Musial, and Tommy Lasorda, the longtime Dodgers manager who was a player when Stan Musial was playing, said he thought Stan Musial was the best ball player he ever saw play and was death on the Dodgers. He was the Dodgers liked him, the Dodgers fans liked him, but it was a real rivalry. Stan Musial was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame the first year he was eligible in 1969. He would be one of the great ambassadors for baseball for the rest of his life. When he retired in 1963, Commissioner Ford Frick says, "Here stands baseball's perfect warrior. Here stands baseball's perfect knight." He became an American icon throughout ballparks and over the radio in 1940s and 1950s, KMOX in St. Louis had this booming signal that went all the way to almost all the way to the West Coast. It covered a lot of the South, and St. Louis, the Cardinals, were the furthest south of any baseball team and the furthest west of any baseball team, and because of that, Stan Musial played on a club that in many ways became America's team at that time. I can remember growing up in southwest Missouri on a dairy farm, particularly late at night when we were hauling hay, and I can remember this when I was 10 or 12 years old. Whoever was in the truck must have almost been deaf, because we'd have, the driver would have the radio turned up as loud as you could turn the radio up, and the St. Louis Cardinal game would be coming out of both windows as we were out there working in the field, or if we weren't working in the field, sitting on a porch somewhere listening to the Cardinals play. And there was no greater Cardinal than Stan Musial. Bob Gibson, another great Cardinal and Stan's teammate and a fellow Hall of Famer, said, "Stan Musial is the nicest man I ever met in baseball." Bob Gibson went on to say he didn't particularly associate nice with baseball, but he associated nice with Stan Musial. Bob Costas had this to say about Stan Musial. He said, "Stan Musial didn't hit in 56 straight games. He didn't hit 400 for a season. He didn't get 4,000 hits. He didn't hit 500 home runs. He didn't hit a home run his last time at bat. He just hit a single the last time he was at bat. He didn't marry Marilyn Monroe. He married his high school sweetheart. His excellence was a quiet excellence." ESPN recently titled Musial the most underrated athlete ever. Only Hank Aaron, to think about the things that Stan Musial didn't do, only Hank Aaron had more runs than Stan Musial and extra base hits. Only Tris Speaker and Pete Rose had more hits. Only Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds created more runs, but Stan Musial was at the highest levels in all of those areas. Writing in the Post-Dispatch this week, Bernie Misclox wrote, "Let's celebrate Musial's extraordinary life and be thankful for his enduring presence through the decades. Let's keep it simple in honor of this remarkably uncomplicated man. There's never been a more perfect union, a better relationship between an athlete and a town than Stan Musial and St. Louis. From the time Stan took his first at-bat as a Cardinal until his death Saturday at his home in Ladue, he was part of the community's soul for 71 years, 4 months, and 2 days. Many stories about Stan Musial have been told. I want to mention 3 that Bernie mentioned in that same article. Talked about when Musial was first inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, as I said earlier, as soon as you could possibly be inducted. It was an overcast day in Cooperstown. The crowd was quiet, subdued, a little bit put off by the day. Moments before Musial's official ceremony, the clouds got out of the way, the sunshine emerged, and Dizzy Dean's widow, Pat Dean, said, "Stan brought the sun, he always does." In the 1960s, a second story, Musial and other major league stars visited U.S. troops in Vietnam and went to the military hospital to console the wounded. One seriously injured soldier looked up at Musial from his hospital bed and said, "You're the best." Musial's response was, "No, you are." Brooklyn Dodgers pitcher Joe Black, an African-American, told a story about being racially taunted by players in the St. Louis dugout during a game. Musial, who was batting at the time, facing Joe Black, stepped out and angrily kicked the dirt to convey his disapproval of his own teammates, and he waited after the game to tell Black, "I'm sorry that happened, but you don't have to worry about it. You're a great pitcher. You'll win a lot of games." Black said Musial's support helped him gain the confidence he needed to become a top pitcher. And the fourth and last story that Bernie told was when legendary center fielder Willie Mays frequently talked about Musial coming and befriending African-American players during the All-Star game. They were being ignored by everybody else. According to Mays, this is a Mays quote, "We were in the back of the clubhouse playing poker, and none of the white guys had come back or said hi or how's it going or how are you guys doing or welcome to the All-Star game. We were playing poker, and all of a sudden I look up, and here comes Stan toward us. He grabs a chair, sits down, and starts playing cards with us. And Stan didn't know how to play poker, according to Willie Mays. Stan didn't know how to play poker, but his way of welcoming us to the game, making us feel better, I never forgot it, and we never forgot it. Musial didn't make a lot of fiery speeches. He didn't lead a movement. He didn't try to promote himself as an angelic humanitarian. He just did good things. And then there's a last story, the love story between Stan and his wife, Lil. Maybe the best Musial statistic of all. They were married for 71 years, 4 months, and 2 days until Lil died on May the 3rd. Stan followed her in January. KMOX, the hay truck I talked about, like lots of other Cardinal fans and Musial fans, I remember the first time I saw Stan Musial play at Sportsman's Park. I remember the first time 30 years later I actually met him when I was the Secretary of State in Missouri, and getting to meet Stan Musial was about as good as it got even then. I remember hearing him play Take Me Out to the Ball Game on his harmonica. Baseball was lucky to have him. Missouri was lucky to have him. The Cardinals in St. Louis were lucky to have him. And I'm pleased to be here today to say how much we appreciate Stan Musial, and I'm also pleased to be joined by my colleague from Missouri, Senator McCaskill.